Bitwig Studio 5 has an impressive set of instruments. A sampler, a drum sampler, several synthesizers, and even a modular synthesizer where you can build your own dream synthesizer. My name is Thomas Foster, and in this tutorial I will give you an overview of the instruments in Bitwig Studio and show you how to work with them. Good to have you here, let's go! I have loaded two tracks in Bitwig Studio, an instrument track and an audio track. If you don't have an instrument track, it's easy to load one, to create one. Simply right-click this black area and say Add Instrument Track. And here it is. But I delete this again with the backspace key and select my first track. And now I see the first track here. It says Instrument 1, like the name of the track. And here with this plus sign, I can open the browser to insert a device to load an instrument. Okay, let's click on this plus sign. And here I see all the instruments of Bitwig Studio and all the instruments that I have installed as a VST plugin from other companies on my hard disk. So why don't we go to the first instrument, a synthesizer? And this is the synthesizer I use most. That's the Polysynth. Let's load it with a double click or by clicking here on confirm after you selected it. And that's the Polysynth. You have here two oscillators, 1 and 2, that you can shape, and here you can mix between 1 and 2. We have here a filter. We have here an envelope where you can make the sound, for example, more pluggy or more long with more release time, and so on and so on. The simplest way to load a nice sound is to click here on the to open the browser, and now in the browser we see just presets for the Polysynth. Let's listen to some bassline 3, banded chord, and big plug square. Yeah, you simply can click through them, you see them and can hear them. And if you like one, simply say confirm to close the browser again. So, but I go now back with a right click here on this area to load default preset, to go back to the init sound. Maybe we make on some voices to make it more unison. Let's add the high octave. Add a sub. Shape the second oscillator a little bit. Maybe we use the filter here, to the envelope to control the filter. All right. Now I want to hear some delay maybe. So to load an audio effect, I click here the plus behind the instrument. Because in the Polysynth comes in MIDI notes. So if you want to change the notes with a MIDI effect, you have to click this plus. Out of the synthesizer comes audio. If you want to change the sound of audio, you have to click here to load an audio effect. So let's click on the plus, and now I type DEL to load a delay. Maybe simply the delay 1, very simple mono delay. Here we can control the feedback. Without feedback, we just hear one repeating. I can make it longer, half note, or very short, eighth note. So basically these are the 16th of our tempo. In tempo 110, this is 1/16, 2/16, 3, and so on. And here we can add some feedback, can filter the sound. Wonderful. Let's load a reverb. So I click again the plus and I type REV and we load the reverb. A little longer, but less volume. I like it like this. So I like the sound, but now I want to change the notes. To do this, I click here this plus. And the first thing, now we have just MIDI effects where we can change the notes. So the first thing we do is we go to multi-note, that's the name. And let's turn everything off, then it's easier to understand. The first note I turn on here is the original note that I'm playing. Now let's add an octave. If I don't want an octave, I can go down here. But we stay on an octave, that means 12 half notes. Let's add 7 half notes. What is a fifth? Let's add the small third. And a low octave maybe. Wonderful. Let's load an arpeggiator. So I want to have the arpeggiator after the chords. So I can play on the keyboard just one note. And after that we place an arpeggiator. Now I press one note. We add an octave. Or we play in chords. If we play in chords, maybe we should change a little bit the rhythmic here. I like it like this. And still I'm just clicking one note on my keyboard. And we created a very interesting sound that we can filter. So pretty cool. So why don't we load another instrument? Let's erase everything that we had right now. And why don't we load the sampler? Okay. What is a sampler? With a sampler, you can place recordings, audio files on your keyboard. So let's check this out. I go here to this audio track and record something. I record my voice, but we want to do this not in stereo. I take the mono in, where my microphone is connected. Let's record something. Thomas Foster, music production. Alrighty. And now let's cut the beginning perfectly. Let's make it a little louder, like this. Thomas Foster, music production. Okay, that's our recording. Now we open the sampler and now we place this audio file in this black area here. And now I can play it on my keyboard. Thomas Foster.
Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster.
Thomas Foster. And I even can play chords.
Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Music. Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Thomas Foster. Music.
Thomas Foster. Music. That's a lot of fun. But this is the normal sampler. We also can work with granular synthesis. Thomas Foster, music production. Music production. Or we can make it a wavetable synthesizer. So crazy options that you have here with this tool. I can play a chord now. Really crazy stuff that you can do. And you cannot just load one sample, you can load 20 samples and place it on your keyboard. Why don't we load a sound that is using multi-samples? We click here to load a sound. Maybe we find a piano. I type in piano, and grand piano could be cool. And now you see there is not one sample. These are like hundreds of samples. And if you want to see this, simply double click on one of the samples and then you see it here in big this is a sample, this is a sample. So a lot of samples. That's why this piano sounds so realistic. And here we have some samples with less dynamic, with lost velocity. Yeah. So to load a realistic sound, simply click here and you see all the sounds that you can load in the sampler, like this Wurlitzer electro piano here, for example. Wonderful. So that's the sampler of Bitwig Studio. But now I would like to show you the big synthesizer, the modular synthesizer, and this is called the grid, the Polymer grid. So let's go down here. Polygrid, where is it? Polygrid Synth 1. I think this is here. Polygrid. That's it. So let's confirm it. This is the Polygrid. We can erase my voice here. And if I want to see the modular synth, I simply have to click in this black area, and now we see it big here. Maybe it's a little loud. We have here an oscillator, we have here an envelope, and that's the audio output. Okay, now I want to change the oscillator. At the moment that's the union. So I go here to oscillators. Alright, here we see all the oscillators. Why don't we take the sine and place it on top of the union to change it? Now we have the sine. Let's try the pulse. Okay, let's change it a little bit. All right, let's add another oscillator. Let's go here to triangle and place this here. And now I want to connect it here. If I hold down my option key, I have inserted a mixer. That's kind of easy and fast. And you can add all these filters, and let's add a filter simply by placing it here on this output. You see how fast you can build your own dream synthesizer and do whatever you have in mind to make this sounding interesting. All right, that's the Polygrid. Also here you can load existing sounds. Let's listen to some. That's a crazy one. Let's confirm it, and now we can see it. Alrighty, I like it. Okay. So let's click again on the plus and load the next instrument, the drum machine. What is a drum machine? That's a sampler on every key. And if we load here, for example, in the browser, some drums, let's go to, I don't know, snare. Here I have some snare sounds. And now I can load them on my keyboard. Now I have one on the first key, one on the second. So I can play them now over the keyboard. So I can load on every key a different sample. That's basically the idea of the drum machine. Let's load a preset, for example, the crunchy or the original 808 bass. Let's listen. Bass drum, snare, hi-hat. Now we could record something. For this I turn on the metronome. I click here on record. 3, 4. Okay. Let's listen. With a double click, I see what I recorded. I can select everything and press the Q on my keyboard to quantize it. Not so perfect. All right, but that is not what the video is about. That's the drum machine. Let's go to the next instruments. We have a lot of drum sound synthesizers, like this E-kick. Now I have a bass drum that I can control here with these knobs. Right, and like this you have also a E-clap. And the funny thing is you can automate them, the controllers, and change the sound in your track. So this is pretty cool. I like the E-toms because with this you can make this typical Simon drums. If we make a disco track. Oh, we had a TV show in Germany, the Wetten das, yeah? I'm betting or something like this, where you have this Simon toms. Wonderful. So you have a lot of this electronic drum sounds. You have an organ, very simple, basic possibility to change your overtones. That's the organ. What else do we have? Yeah, very interesting, the Polymer. Let's double click the Polymer. What is the idea of the Polymer? You have a great synthesizer where you can change here your oscillator to different types. You have here different filter settings where you can filter your sound, add a sub. Here we have the envelopes. And then you can say, I want to change my sound even more. I don't have enough controls here. So you right click here, convert to Polygrid. And now you changed it into the Polygrid. And now you can open it. And this is exactly the sound we had right now in the Polymer. And now you can add different oscillators and continue from here in the Polygrid. This is crazy. It's a great idea. I never used it, but it's a fantastic feature. What else do we have? We have a vocoder, so you can make this typical sound that you know from Daft Punk, where you can play notes on your keyboard and talk into the microphone, and then you hear yourself singing in the sounds of Daft Punk. Yeah, I think we have closely everything. To see just the sounds of Bitwig Studio, you can go here to Creator and say, for example, Bitwig. And now we just see the instruments of Bitwig Studio. Phase 4 is very important. Phase 4 is another synthesizer where you have 4 oscillators and you can control with every oscillator every other oscillator. So if I want with the yellow oscillator to control the red oscillator, I can do this here. If I want with the purple to control the red oscillator, I can use this knob here. So you can make crazy sounds. Let's listen to some presets. The Alien Choir. The ambient strings. Wonderful sounds. All right. So I showed you closely now every instrument. The last thing I would like to show you is how you can load more than one instrument on a track. So again, Creator, we go to Bitwig, so we see just the Bitwig instruments. And here we have the instrument selector. Let's double click it. So this is basically an instrument where you can load more than one instrument. So for example, let's load the Polymer, Polysynth. Okay, maybe we make it a little bit sounding more interesting. Okay, that's fine. And now I click here this plus sign to load another instruments. And now we can add the Polymer. And now we can select, while we are playing, between the Polysynth and the Polymer. So you can load a lot of sounds. Maybe you are not sure which one to use. Then you can load every sound that you like. And while you're playing, you can go through them and compare. And you can automate this comparing here, so you can change the sound while you are playing. So a lot of crazy stuff you can do. But maybe you want to mix them. In this case, we would not use the instrument selector. We would use the instrument layer. So again, we load one instrument, maybe again the Polysynth. Okay, we click this plus sign here and load the Polymer. And now we have here the Polysynth, we have here the Polymer, and we can mix them with the volume here. You can mute them. And you can add another one and another one and another one. Why don't we load the phase 4? In the phase 4, let's go to solo, so just here the phase 4. I would like to load another sound. I like this one, confirm. And maybe we duplicate the main synth, the Polysynth, and make this an octave higher, or 7 notes higher. So very fast and easy, you can layer some sounds, so it is crazy. So I told you to show you the last thing, and that was wrong because I forgot the very last thing. Because instead of loading just instruments of Bitwig, you also can load VST plugins, sounds from other companies, not from Bitwig. And I click here now the plus, and I would give you one example of a VST instrument, and that's the Mugent player. If you don't know the Mugent player, you should take a look at it, because the basic version of the Mugent player is free. And if you want to have all sounds, then you can go here to Ultimate Bundle and get some more sounds. All right, let's take a look to some sounds. For example, the chill out drums. You can download it for free. All the sounds are in the cloud, so every day you open this plugin, you can have new sounds. And I like so much these drum sounds with a genre name in it, because they really have authentic sound. If you want to produce a chill out track, you will realize that this sound is pretty standard sound for chill out tracks. And now let's load a MIDI file. If you click here, you hear this MIDI file. And now I can click on it and drag it into our timeline. And now I have here a MIDI file with the notes in it, right? And now you can do everything you want with it. For example, you can change the tempo. Or you can double click it and change the notes. So you can do whatever you want with it. So let's listen to some other sounds. You have a lot of fantastic drum sounds for house music, for techno, for reggae, reggaeton, everything you have in mind. Let's go to keys, listen to this EDM piano. Also here you could load this MIDI file and use it to change the notes to make it your own track. But you also can mix sound here. Mix sounds very easy. For example, I have here this warm roads. I say load, and now we have here the EDM piano and here the road. Why don't we add a nice synthesizer pad? Let's try the blue pad. Maybe it's a little bit too loud. Also the piano is very loud. Maybe we can add this sound here to have a little bit more attack. On this synthesizer I would like to hear more delay, so I click on FX to get some little more delay. So if you don't know the Mugent player, you definitely should check it out. I love the sounds. There's no track that I produce where I don't use the Mugent player. Thank you for watching. Always stay creative. Cheers!